Hey, what's up, everyone? I hope you can hear me. Looks like my camera's frozen here. Just a second. Video capture device. Alright, I think I just had to refresh it. That looks good. Sorry guys for the late day. I've had a crazy day today. It was like my busiest day ever. I had appointments from like 9 o'clock in the morning non-stop until basically 12 hours straight. I'm basically working from 9 to 9. Don't let me forget, like after my stream I have a lesson, so normally I ask Jim. I don't think Jim's here yet, but normally I ask Jim to remind me. Does somebody remind me that I have a lesson after the stream so I don't go wander off and leave my student without anybody to help him improve his chess game. Welcome, Mr. Coffee, Bob, Warnaki, Acerbate. Got the hiccups. Hold on. That will distract me from hiccuping, I think. All right. What's up, everybody? Sorry to keep you waiting. Acerbate, thanks for the donation, 100 bits. We've got Jim this week, Move 11, Dragon BC, Merle Dixon, Acerbate, Mr. Coffee. Had a full day today. I've even gone to the dentist. Fuzzy Logic Chess. Okay, Acerbate, another 100, man. Wow, thank you, sir. All right, let's get started. Game analysis Thursday. I've got this following list of chess players who submitted games. Subscribers, I should say. You guys are more than just chess players. You're subscribers. Gifting cookies. Mr. Coffee, thanks for being our moderator. IVYM from last week. Acerbate, Jim, Yabatis, Save a Dog, Mule Skinner, Bob, and Blobix. That's what I've got thus far. I'm going to take Yabatis first because he, I think, can't stay long if he's here at all. He's probably not even here anyway. Probably already went to bed. Mule Skinner subscribed for 2 years. What? He's subscribed for 24 months. Okay, currently on a 23-month streak. We'll call it 2 years, sir. Bob, thank you for the donation. 40 bits. Bob's on the board. All right, Mr. Coffee coming in 7th. Blobix, not on the tournament. He's not in the tournament this week, but he did submit a game for the. He did submit a game for the stream. He couldn't hang out with us last night, unfortunately. Blobix did submit last game. Okay, I want to do Yabatis first. This game first. They're a spectacular camel. All right, as promised. Submission for the stream. Nimzovich defense, Williams variation. Wait a second. I'm going to open my window. A little more air. Landscapers were added earlier, so I had to kind of close it down. But all right. The stream didn't start, so I had to reload the page. Let's go, guys. Game analysis. This is Hraberg against Yabatis. Hraberg against Yabatis. This is 10+0 rated rapid 25 hours ago. Okay, Yabatis is black. He loves to play knight to c6. Mr. Coffee, save the 2 bits for when you have to send me a message and I'm not paying attention. Thank you, sir. E4, knight c6. The Nimzovich, knight f3. Yabatis and I had talked about like how there's a book where some guy recommended knight f6, e5, knight to g4. This is just rubbish for black. Don't try that at home. So it looks like this is the only way to keep it independent. like an independent Nimzovich defense, like d6. And now c3. The weirdest feeling like I've seen this move before. Yabatis, why do I feel like I've seen this move before? Did somebody on the stream play this against me? Like Bob? Bob, you wouldn't have done that, right? Something very dystopian about watching ads for 2 cents. I agree. That's just my 2 cents, Bob. But, No! No, that wasn't good. That joke was probably good enough for the Muppet Show, at best. So, C3 I feel like we've seen before. It was Spectacular Camel. I think you were at the tournament. You were playing in Extracon in Denmark, in the tournament there. And while you were playing, I think I had a game against someone. I was like, it's funny, this is the only move I've never, like Yabatis and I had never considered that black could have to face against, like, you know, d6, c3. Not a move I would have considered, but this is very familiar to me. This game, Belikovskaya against Miles. I was probably there for that tournament. That's undoubtedly like the World Open 1994. There was this long-standing conspiracy theory that this woman master from Russia who moved to the United States, she might have even been U.S. Women's Championship champion once. There was a long-standing conspiracy theory that Angelina Belikovskaya and Maxim Dlugy were the same person. I don't know whatever came of that, but, you know, if there was ever something like for modern chess conspiracy theory material, nothing like that I've heard, you know, for a long time. We had this just mundane computer cheaters and stuff like that, but yeah, there's something to that. I think there was something to that. The Dlugy was always kind of a little bit shady there. Anyways, g6. This is just a version of like a Tory attack without playing bishop g5, basically. Any sort of c3 you can do. Actually, it's a modern. This is simply a modern with c3, d4 or e4, g6, d4, bishop g7, c3. It's a solid and comfortable and simple to play system for white against the modern. Okay, welcome guys. Thanks for joining me for game analysis. This is Spectacular Camel. This is not a standard square for the bishop. Apples and oranges. Despite the fact there's a couple good players that apparently played this, I just don't really see, you know, the point of mixing a sharp move with a passive move. De Roorber, I'm not taking challenges here. Mr. Coffee asked if bishop g5 is a move. I mean, bishop g5 is always a move when black is playing knight f6. I think it's less clear. It's less clear when knight f6 hasn't been played yet. You know, as you can see, like, people are trying to play h6 and stuff like that. Here's Duda against Anton. Westerine against Tickle. There are games, though. Where should the bishop go? Yeah, it's definitely a move. It's definitely a move. I like it better than bishop c4, to be honest. Knight f6 and bishop f4. Bookends. Chess bookends. I've seen this done against the hippo with a knight on c3, you know, but here, bishop f4 and bishop c4 both seem oddly placed. Plus, this is just like dropping a pawn. Appears to be just dropping a pawn. Good job. Don't believe him. Not a good gambit. Someone on sound might like this for white. It looks like something he would play. At least in blitz. But white should just be a pawn down here. Rook e1. It's always lower risk to make less pawn moves, right? So when Yabatis decides to play d5 here, he weakens his structure and changes the structure. So that c7 becomes a target. It's like lower risk to, say, play knight f6, I would say. It's a little bit more passive, obviously. This reminds me of a blitz game I had against the aforementioned Someone Unsound. Fuchsia. Anton is more famous. That's an ironic quote, right? I love that. Mule Skinner. Can I quote you on that? It sounds like something Donald Trump would say. You know, someone's world famous in the USA. Anton is world famous in Spain. No, I mean, he's definitely a strong, well-known GM in the world. It's just kind of ironic the way that Mule Skinner, world famous in Spain. You have your own world there. I was not aware of that. I like Spain a lot, but I didn't know it was like a world. No, like seriously, he's a well-known player now. Okay, so he plays d5, weakening the structure a little bit. Bishop e5, good try. Could you hear it? Please explain what it means, too many bookends. I have not heard that expression either. I've never heard that expression. Must be lost in translation. Something from Google Translate. I mean, you're Danish. You know, you probably speak English as well as most Americans. You might even know English better, judging by most Americans that I see on a day-to-day basis. But no, I haven't seen or heard this expression. Oh, it's an old blues song. Okay. No understanding of that meaning. I never used that phrase myself, but I think it means something unnecessary. Good guess. This move is horrible. Bishop e5. So we anticipated knight e5, and then we're going to have to play the ugly bishop d7 or the ugly queen e8. Something to that effect. Let me turn off the engine. I don't want to leave it on all the time. I use it for lessons a lot, and I just leave it on. But if we're going to do a stream, let's do without the engine if possible. So I think that f6 is just a good move for black. In many cases, Feingold jokes about f6, never play f6. There are certain positions where it's actually a really extremely useful move. This is one of them. Totally controlling the e5 square. Yeah. That just improved black's position. I think I'd like to play, like, somehow put my bishop on f7, but I don't know how I'm gonna manage to do that. Another idea that could be useful is g5. We could even overrun white with g5, h5 sort of things. Bishop g4 I'm not sure about. Are you gonna trade your bishop, really? And if he just plays knight to d2, maybe we have e5. Do some sort of tricks lurking, lurking here with e5. Guys, this is our game analysis stream every Thursday, so I'm not accepting challenges. Subscribers are welcome to submit games for analysis. I think we're pretty full up for games. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We could maybe do another one. If someone else wants to submit a game. Jim's here. All right, Jim. I was waiting for you because you're the guy who is supposed to remind me that I have a lesson after the stream. Good to see you. It's nice to know you have a purpose in life, right? All right. Been a long day for me, guys. I'm going to try to do my best. So I thought this. I'm trying to be devil's advocate here for Yabadis' opponent. But h3, I'll tell you what, I don't like trading my bishop off, but Yabadis is justified here. This is strong, and we're just up a clear central pawn. And the doubling of these pawns doesn't seem that relevant. And Yabata should know how important it is to play e4 in critical positions so that he doesn't end up with a bad bishop on g7. Funny that he did that in this game, but he did not in another key position. Queen d1, f5, rolling. And it looks like this looks bad for, it looks really bad for white now. This is like on almost autopilot attack. This is a 10-0 game. Man, that move just makes my stomach churn. Maybe that's just that I'm hungry, but man. I really don't want to take that bishop. God. I mean, sure, we can take it. I guess it's good enough. All right. I hate to do it, you know, but all right. It is painful. Sometimes you just got to do it. The pawns are rolling. That's the important thing. We've got more important things here. F3. It's over. So he had to try maybe pawn takes. Pawn takes and then attempt to survive. It does look bad for white. Bishop h6, queen d6, queen g3, f4, double the rooks. White shouldn't survive here, but pawn takes lasts a little bit longer. So the ugly, it's instructive though, the ugly exchange of the strong knight for the defensive bishop, that's stopping f4, stopping the roller. It's always weird to trade the opponent's like worst piece with your best piece. But in this case, it's accomplishing an important goal of achieving like freedom for the f-pawn. Free range f-pawn. I wonder if you could have timed this in a different way. You don't want to give him time to play f3 though. Now how do we break it down? Rook f5, rook h5. No, I mean, yeah, clearly your move queen d7, he could have played king h2, and I'm not sure how easy it is for you to finish him off there. But if you played rook f5 first, that might just be like lights out in all variations. Because it's a super nasty idea. You have rook h5 with the idea of bishop h6. And drawing straight lines. I'm good at that. I'll bet you rook f5 is the killing blow. Nope. It likes it next. Okay, so the computer likes queen d7 followed by rook f5. What could possibly be wrong with rook f5 first, kids? How could this possibly be wrong? Knight d2? Clash Kid, great to see you. I don't know. Funny, the engine likes it slightly better, but anyways. So king h2, rook f5. What I didn't get was I thought he can try g4. It's like +6. There is no immediate knockout. So for me, in my book, rook f5 is just better. I mean, how does he defend here? Knight d2, rook h5. It's just like sacking a knight on f3. Okay. Anyway, to each his own, but I like this better. So queen d7, queen e3, obviously this is over. Easy game, but you made it possible with the great opening. By the way, there's no queen after bishop h6. You checkmated the king and the queen. Clash Kid has subscribed for 24 months. What's up, man? Have you been playing any chess? Just watching Formula 1. Did you get to go to the Hungarian Formula 1? That was a while ago, though. Okay, queen takes h3. Let's go on. So IVYM was actually submitted. He submitted a game. I got Warnaki. Okay, IVYM submitted a game last week that we didn't have a stream last week, so he was surprised. Honestly, don't know the difference between an evaluation of 4.5 and 6.0. All right, where's IVYM? I feel like I must have missed it or something. Oh, this is crazy. All right. There it is. All right, here. Alaska weird. Let me try to grab this. Copy. Oh, no, there it is. All right. Game for analysis 2 weeks ago. Is that right, or is that... Now I'm thinking this is the wrong game. If this was 2 weeks ago, it shouldn't be from 2 weeks ago. Then that's too old. This is the one that we did. We should actually be finding a game that's like a week ago. There it is. All right, I missed it the first time. Here we go. Thank you for the analysis of my game. Here's one that I won. All right. Good idea, Fuchs. People, you should create a study with the game and make me a contributor. I love it when like random people do that, you know? They just send me messages on lichess. All right. So IVYM is white. Whoa. 5 in accuracy, 0 mistakes, 0 blunders. Nice. Pierre's defense with bishop d3. This is actually similar to the game we just saw. Oftentimes white will play c3 in subsequent play, and it will just transpose to a c3 modern. That's what happened here, literally. Pierre's with a TS. E4, D6. Pierre's was Slovenian, right? D4, knight F6, bishop D3, G6, C3. There it is. So in the last game we saw where white tried to play like bishop C4, I mean, that's atypical. Normally, you don't do that. You keep the bishop inside the pawn chain. And I think that a setup like very typical here would be knight F3 and then later bishop G5, transposing to a Tory attack. Our second mod pronounces it Pierre. Our second mod. What's his name again? Bishop G7, H3. So this is interesting. H3 feels like a lot of pawn moves to me. There is possible F4. I had a friend who played this variation with white because I'm thinking that it's possible that it was recommended by a strong book player in a book. I think I have a friend who played this line with F4 here, and his game that followed was really interesting. This was a certain friend who played David Norwood, and Norwood being a modern, defense expert, I believe here that Norwood like sacked the pawn in a really creative way. He played like C5, D takes C5, and then he just like castled. And it was just like pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Just flat out sacked the pawn, like for absolutely interesting compensation here. This F4 move was recommended. I'm thinking John Nunn for some reason. played it or recommended it. But this is a really neat idea by Norwood to sack a pawn for the initiative. And actually, I suspect that this is a transposition to a c3 Sicilian. So all the Serbian names having the C in the are ch. Well, I mean, when you say Serbian, I mean, I'm talking about Pirc, who is like not Serbian. I mean, they're all different. Yugoslavia, you know, contained different regions and what are now different countries. Okay, so c5, d takes c5. That's a cool idea. Anyways, h3 seems like an unnecessary pawn move. So this is the point to play bishop e3. Interesting. Here, black giving up the pawn on e5. The strong point on e5, just trading it off. You better have a good reason to do that. Computer says like d5. Generally this formation doesn't, it looks a little slow for white. I wouldn't be surprised if d5 was a really strong move. Now it's just all of a sudden, I think, good for white again because we can play knight c3 and really just solidly protect e4. If d5, obviously e5 is solid. This is maybe the best try, I think, under the circumstances. Interesting. Black tries to sack a pawn. Sakaponda. Bob Sakaponda. I like white's reaction here. He just doesn't bite. Which way do we recapture with the knight, presumably? Yeah, I'm not liking bishop takes that much. I'm no fan of country music. Country's music is something else. Country's world's music, like Spanish music. Just a little joke about Mule Skinner's earlier comment. World music. Knight takes d4. Why bishop takes d4? Bishop takes d4 is going to get hit by knight to c6. Pepe Lu likes Spanish music. Don't know why. Good to see you, Pepe Lu. Cheers, what's up? He's streaming. What is going on here? So bishop takes d4, that looks like a fat tempo that black just earned. And now bishop e3 and now d5, it's like black equalizes the game. So IVYM, I don't know if IVYM's here, but knight takes d4 is the last chance here for white to maintain some kind of advantage. I mean, the point would be d5, e5. You try to push past and maintain something. But bishop takes d4, knight c6 is a huge tempo. You can't afford to give up this bishop. It's too important. So bishop back and then equalizing now. No. All right, so black has d5. Free your mind with d5. I went to Madrid and years ago, and we went to I had a Spanish girlfriend, and we went to some flamenco concerts. That was really cool. I enjoyed that. Good stuff. Somewhere in Madrid, not that far from the Puerto del Sol. D5 just equalizes on the spot, man. This is an important move for black to find. If he does not find that move, like knight f4, as the engine's pointing out here now, binding the d5 square. Man. This is starting to look good for white again. Imagine if you had time to play like knight f4 and bishop back to e2. You're not the typical flamenco Spaniard. That's cool. Everybody to each his own. Bishop c2. This allows control of d5, but now there's knight c4, so we're going to have another issue. Actually, you know what this game reminds me of? I don't know if anyone else has thought about this, but it's a little bit like a Spanish. What is the Spanish theme going on? You guys, too much with the Spanish stuff today. Knight c4, there it is. Bishop back. Oh, I thought he was going to go bishop back. Here's an aggressive move. I mean, my auto move is bishop back to c1, because that happens in the Spanish. I think it's okay. You know, it's obviously regressive, but a pawn is a pawn, and the bishop's safe, and the knight's a little bit over advanced. I don't know what to call it. Overreaching. Oh, Galicia. Okay. I once knew an airline stewardess from Galicia. But anyway, that's another story. Bishop e3, bishop d4, knight takes b2, queen b1, and now knight to c4. Queen b3, knight a5. He's just running away with tempo. So this was a disaster. Unequivocal disaster. Oh man. So it's just better to play bishop back to c1. You gotta do what you gotta do. This is a loss of pawn. And you got nothing to show for it. Although this move, better to play knight c6, knight a5, knight c6 for black here. Knight is kind of not that well placed on b6. Oh man, this is ugly. Another tempo. So too much tempo lost with the queen. Though this exchange would actually, be a good exchange for white to play bishop b3. Black just gave up a bishop for a knight without any really good reason. And now he just lost the pawn for no reason at all. And in fact, I mean, e5 might even be a good move. Oh, e5, knight h5. I mean, at the very minimum, we just play this. Bishop f6, knight takes d5, and life is good. Man. Lua is a Galician game. That's interesting. It's wow. Yeah, Luna. Bishop f6. Man, bishop b3 was coming next. I'm starting to like white's position now after d5. Two bishops, look at that. Suddenly it all turned around. White has equal material, but two monster bishops. Bad knight here. What do we do? This was an interesting move. Probably doesn't work, I'm guessing. Oh, I get it. So you take on g7, then you play queen b2 check, but then he gets out of the way. How does this work? That's how it works. Yuck. All right, so you just have to take. There's no good discovery because the rook's hanging on e2. So this was unnecessary by white. White's just better spatially with the two bishops here. Not easy to win, but I would definitely choose white. But e6 doesn't work. Now it works. This is extremely monster pass pawn. Monstrous being an adjective. Queen b3 check here. Ouch. Man, this is just murder. Bishop f6. Just over. And bishop d5. So a complete turnaround in a couple of moves, but White had misplayed it in several different places. The opening allowing d5, then dropping the pawn. Then finally, you know, it was about equal when Black blundered with f6. Don't forget Romanian. Probably the closest to Latin. Okay, bishop d5 check. What are we gonna do? IvyYM, thank you for the game. So Asterbait is up next. Always an entertaining game from Asterbait. Thursday commentary stream game you never wanted to see. I'm just making that up, guys. It doesn't say that. Only because it's 13 cent a pawn, no inaccuracies, no mistakes, no blunders. We saw this one past Thursday? Okay. Just me, though. Can you put up the link for lessons? What are you talking about? You mean lessons for language? Asterbait with the white bits here, as they say in the UK. Well, thank you, Mr. Coffee. I'm really, really busy right now, so I might not be able to accept anyone in the next month or so if they're interested in starting lessons. The end of August and September, I'm trying to sell my house, so I'm really, really hurting for time. I think like come October, I might be able to start accepting people to start teaching, you know, new people how to play chess and move the pieces and stuff like that. Right now, I'm just in an incredible crunch for time. E4, C6, knight F3, and then knight A6. Nothing to say about this move. I mean, it's off to the side of the board without any real good reason. You give up. Don't give up, Mr. Coffee. This has been the hardest year of my life. My mom was ill for like 6 months, and then she passed away, and then I have to like take care of all the odds and ends that are resulting from that. So like basically the last year of my life just sort of couldn't think about chess at all. E4, C6, knight F3, knight A6, very strange move. I've seen D5 actually in the, you know, D4, E5, here in the advanced variation, knight A6. Thanks, WJ Loof. I mean, you guys can still feel free to contact me about lessons, but I'm very likely going to decline until at least around the end of October to take on anyone new about private lessons. Unless you offer me, you know, $1 million an hour. That I might make an exception for. Bob recently offered to pay me $500 an hour for lessons, but I told him that, you know, I didn't feel right about it since he's such a good friend and contributor to the stream. Maybe, you know, he'd have to go down to like $300 an hour. Yeah. But anyways, this is the advanced variation with knight A6. It's a pretty dubious thing. I never ever would subscribe to this for Black. So he plays it right away. But the funny thing is here. Good night, Pepaloo. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry you can't be around for me to raid your stream later. Have a great night. Hasta luego. So D4. Look at these games. Carlsen, 2018. And we were here with Asterby, looked at this game, but Tony Miles has a game with Black and a game with White. It's really funny. So Miles faced this opening in like 1979, and he played it later against Ulf Andersson. But let's see. So Carlsen, what do you think this is? Carlsen against this Ladva guy, an Estonian. Where would Carlsen play a 2,500 rated Estonian player in 2018? Do you guys think that's some kind of online game, or Maybe it was some sort of rapid tournament. Carlsen's clearly messing around here with, you know, playing with his food. But the guy actually drew. No, I mean, Carlsen against the 2500, 300 points lower. And he's messing around the opening. The Pro Chess League, yeah, that makes sense, Bob. I just thought, well, the guy is European, so it's possible that he could have played in some rapid or something. It's a young Estonian player, I believe. Okay, so Queen A5 check is like, what? And, I mean, Asterbate played like Bishop D2. I think also just Knight C3 is good. And here I was saying to Asterbate that I think I made the comment that it's okay to sacrifice a pawn for maybe like 3 tempi. So if you look at the position after something like Knight C3, Queen B2, Rook B1, Queen A3, White has 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces developed, and it's his move. I think you can unequivocally say that this is Mule Skinner isn't here. Oh yes, okay, not Mule Skinner. Your namesake Morales likes to sacrifice stuff. He would like this, I think. You know, sacking a pawn for the initiative. But I think if you do sack a pawn, you know, you ought to do it with less pawn moves and more piece development. And basically, Asterbate sacked a pawn with like C4. But I don't think that's as good. I mean, if you're going to sack the pawn, it should be like all the pieces out quickly. So C4. And this is a neat concept. Knight to B4. This just loses a piece. C5. And obviously A3, and we're just simply threatening bishop takes b4, so it's over. The neat concept, what I was talking about, what I was referring to was this. What was the neat concept I was referring to? If queen takes b2, okay, neat concept is basically if black were to play another move, let's say like knight f6, c5, queen takes b2, bishop c3. This is what I'm trying to say. This is the quote-unquote neat concept. The Asterbate has actually trapped people with the same trap in Scandinavian defense, some kind of weird Scandinavian defense. It's a funny queen trap that you don't see really every day. So it's possible for that to happen, but it's kind of hope chess. Instead, black just made this ridiculous move, and he's totally lost. Now it's just a piece down. And black just loses his mind and gives everything up. That's a free donation. Don't ask, don't tell policy here as far as the opponent's moves. At least he got it in the game. Not the highest opposition here, Asterbate, this time. So, eventually, I mean, that was almost a mate, right? Queen f6, but there's knight f5. So Asterbate doesn't take any chances, and it's really kind of awful. The end is awful. It's a cute finish, though. I give you credit for that. King e6, this is a nice move here. The finish is cute because if you play f5 or knight f5, you get mated anyway over on the other side. This is kind of nice. It's like a Morphy, the Morphy queen b3 in the Joko. And this is cute. You know, same thing, like the queen has the same lateral mate either way with the fourth rank or the third rank, it doesn't matter. So Good job. I mean, the opposition was really, really poor here, obviously, but still. Okay, we're on to Jim. Jim is very serious these days. Is it a B3? I knew it. It had to be a B3. A B3 miniature, so forget my recent bad form. I was telling Move 11 today that I'm not really confident about that variation, you know, that main line with Bishop D6 I've been playing against you the last 2 games, Jim. It doesn't seem that great for black, actually. Maybe I'll go back to my older stuff. Alright, B3. Did you ever consider playing, Jim, did you ever consider playing E3? That just transposes, right, to an Owen defense reversed. No, this is better. More efficient to play Bishop E2, I guess, and control the center. I mean, I've had people play this against me just because they know that I play like Bishop G4, so they'll avoid it. But Bishop B2, I guess, is objectively the better move, like preventing E5. Guys, welcome to my stream. This is our subscriber stream. Game analysis with subscribers. Thank you guys for your donations and support of the stream. Tomorrow we're going to have Blitz and Rapid Chess, usual time 5:30 p.m. Nimzo Larson. So, I mean, I've certainly played this with black, trying to pretend that you're white. And I probably played this against Jim long ago. I like to play like the reversed Petrosian Queen's Indian, like with an A6 or something like that, but I'm not sure that one really has time for that. E3, and now Knight C6. Asterbay, thank you, sir. Nimzo and Larson are both Danish players. Are you sure about that? I don't know about that, man. I know Larson is. I thought that Nimzovich was like from like Latvia. Like a Russian Latvian. So E3, Knight C6. But he lived in Denmark. That's the important thing. He was born in Riga, but he died in Denmark. All that matters is where you die. What's up, Juicebox Wizard? So allowing Bishop B5, Bishop D7. This is really, it's the Bishop D2 Nimzo, essentially, after Knight F3. The Grande Zuniga variation reversed. You can do like Bishop D2 on move 4 against the Nimzo with white. And it's a variation, I don't think even Fuchsia could come up with a name for that. For Bishop D2 against the Nimzo, does it have a name? But with black, you're doing it like out of desperation because there isn't really any other good move. You really have to. There's no options. No, Nimzovich was from Columbus, Ohio. Little known fact. Knight F3, A6. Man, A6, wow. It's actually been played. How can you have time to play A6? You're playing a tempo down with black. Kind of critical opening position with a tempo down with black. There's no way I'm playing A6. Yeah, A5's not quite better. I can't agree. You got to develop the pieces here with black. I mean, Knight F6, of course. Okay, A6 played by Daniel Bogdan. Daniel Bogdan. Kramnik, where did he play Deak? Another crazy question. Maybe like a World Cup or something? They could have played at something like the Isle of Man. I'm just trying to think like where Kramnik would have played Deac Bogdan Daniel. Maybe like Gibraltar. No, Kramnik never played in Gibraltar, right? But he did play in the Isle of Man. That's a good question. He actually lost to Deac Bogdan Daniel. Where was this? Some sort of rapid tournament? That's weird. Okay. The guy, this Romanian kid, Deac, like, he's one of the most nervous players I've ever seen. He had this game where I was playing like down the like row of tables from him, and he was literally like pacing back and forth like a caged lion the whole time, driving the entire row of players like crazy. There wasn't really that much room behind the boards, and he was just like pacing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and everybody was like losing their minds. Like, this guy is just out of control, irritating like every single player for like a mile around. Extremely, I thought he had some sort of anxiety disorder, honestly. Bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, and now knight e5. And let's see, so Daniel Bogdan Deac, whatever, he played rook c8 here. This is a normal move. No, he didn't. Okay, so he played queen c7. Also a normal move. Must not have been a good day for Kramnik. Maybe maybe that was the tournament where he lost against maybe that was the same tournament, the Isle of Man, where Kramnik lost against, like, oh, who was it? The American grandmaster who came back after retiring for like 20 years. I don't know where this tournament was, what it could have been. Tarjan. No, Kramnik lost to Tarjan in the Isle of Man, where he like overpressed and sort of like disrespected him, trying too hard to win. Like, Tarjan was like kind of playing solid for a draw, and Kramnik just like went crazy. But I don't know where this was. Anyways, let's take a look at the game. So knight e5, rook c8. Pavel Blatny. f4, classic. That's funny. You know what's funny about this? Blatny actually plays the Bird Larsen with white. Good choice, Rusudan. I think I'll play the Bird Larsen against someone who plays the Bird Larsen. Not really a good idea, but whatever. So f4, I like f4. Knight f6. Now we're going to just transpose to a flat out standard sort of position from the Nimzo. d3, e6. Black could also consider a g6, I'm thinking. How bad is g6? Playable. Muleskinner said g6 not so good. I'm not sure it's that bad. The question isn't how good it is, it's how bad it is. If we can get a fianchetto, our kingside will be a little bit safer. Blubby's right, though. I mean, objectively, yeah. I tried to play that, though, against Jim, and I've had some close games there at Blubbox. Nakamura plays that a lot. It's not so easy for Black. This is just straight out of... I mean, actually, this game could transpose to any kind of other games at any point here. You know the famous game Rubinstein lost with Black against Nimzovich? Where Nimzovich... how was it? Was it reverse colors, though? Nimzovich must have been white, and then there was an a6 for Black. I think it was just like bishop came back to e8. PHN. Peter Heine. Grab a Heine. Yeah, it's an old Heineken gimmick. But this bishop can become a really dangerous piece. I had a game with Josh Friedel like that. If like b5 and you let it live, it goes back to b7 and you have like a Bogo Indian reversed. I normally wouldn't play that move, knight takes c6. But honestly, Jim, I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do. I think at this point I would have made, with white, another improving move of some kind. Maybe like queen e2. You know, just like preparing e4. Juicebox has given up on Asia. You should try, yeah, try South America. I recommend Venezuela. Juicebox. Very stable place to live. Castles. Knight takes c6, rook takes c6. All right. So you could play e4. You can play queen e2. This is like a classic position. I mean, the knight is doing its duty, controlling e4. Knight f3. This is a classic Queen's Indian pawn sacrifice, also Nimzo pawn sacrifice the computer wants to do. It's not really a sacrifice, right? It's just like trading this pawn for this pawn. It dynamizes the position, creates imbalance. The square looks weak. Let me turn off the engine again. I forget to turn it off. So here's what's happening. If black were able to play e5, I mean, I think he would have a good game. Another critical decision. I mean, can we take with a knight? Should we take with the bishop? Should we not take at all? Maybe black should consider like rook c7 or something. All right, now we're stuck in this position where this knight and this bishop really define the game. The bishop is bad, but the knight is bad too. White has like a spatial advantage, I think, because of that pawn on e5. So black, well, I mean, rook c7 would be about like just getting rid of the knight on our terms, I'm saying. So we're just moving our rook out of take, and then perhaps just considering playing f6. I mean, it's not very exciting, but it might just be like the simplest way to play. I guess there's queen g4 though. Look, queen g4 f5 looks pretty good. Now, the rook certainly isn't bad here. I don't know what this 0.7 is that it's saying. That's kind of weird. It's just the stored evaluation. I would be like, in a blitz game, I'd probably play this because I want it to not be too committal. Now black needs to be decisive and quick about this. We want to put pressure on e5. We probably want to play c4. Open up the position. How often does the computer value position is lost, but only for one impossible to find forcing move? Yeah, all the time, every day, man. Business as usual. Is this a problem? That's awkward. Wow, so maybe this is the whole secret. I didn't see this. This primitive, wow, just primitive pawn win. Does this work? What happens if you play like queen e2? Queen g5, queen e2, protecting the pawn, with the idea that if knight takes e5, we have the distractionary h4. That's money, right? I don't like rook f3 at all. It's extremely awkward. But I understand what he's going to do. He's going to play rook f3, rook g3. Maybe it's good. But I think this move would sufficiently defend the pawn. I don't understand. I must be missing. Oh, he has queen g4. Actually, move 11 was talking about this. What's that called, move 11? When you have this? Move 11 will give us the definition of what this is called. Totally missed it. So queen e2 doesn't work. I have the book. I was just packing up all my books, and I have the book Master of Counterattack. Larson, Master of Counterattack. Great book by Peter Clark, I think. Collection of all of his games. Most of his games, not all of his games. Maybe Jim's right. Like, this was the best try. Rook f3. Okay. So now we have queen f5, though. And then white plays like queen e2 next, followed by rook f1. And the queen is in danger of getting trapped. Wow. Nice. So maybe c4. c4, bc4, dc4, e4. And it gets horrible. That's not going to work. Suddenly black's right on the edge of losing a piece. He is losing a piece now. So black had to find some impossible move now. That's what Jim's playing white. That's what Bob was talking about. You know, how often do you have those games where like one has to play this impossible move? I mean, this is a good example. How about f6 though? Come on, guys. That loses a queen, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is just too hard. I mean, to find this move. It's like queen f6 with the idea of knight f3 check. And now if rook b1, there's no forward threat. Actually, there would be queen h5. You're actually threatening queen h5 now. But then you could play like d4, so... Then again, white could play rook f1. It just goes on and on. That's an extremely awkward defense for one to have to find, though. Man. It was a greedy plan, guys, queen g5, wasn't it? Truthfully. And he got punished. Punished for his greedy plan. What about e4? I thought this worked. So this doesn't work because he can revert back to queen f6. Okay, that same defense. So let's see. Jim found it. Rook f1, pawn. I would have missed this. That's beautiful, dude. That's really beautiful. Whoops, one problem. One slight problem here. Better to sack the queen. Bishop e5, queen e2, rook g7, king h8, rook f7, king g8, and rook f8 mate. Rook f8 mate. You know, it's funny. I guess it's my sense of danger, but I never even considered this plan for black. I would not even have considered it. It's just too much. I was looking at c4 and various ways of playing c4. Just to try to organize some sort of counterplay on the queen side in the center for black. It's a great job, Jim. You put him in a difficult situation. He could not find his way out. And now he just resigned. Obviously, like king h8, rook f7 check. You have to like lose your exchange, and your knight's probably almost trapped there. Rook f8 here. This is just totally down the exchange for nothing. Great game, man. Classic. I want to go back and just say once more that I think that this defining moment in the game where black plays bishop takes e5, I'm not really 100% sure I'm in agreement with that. Look at that whole variation. You have to find those perfect moves in order for this to work. This is more solid for starters, and we can just play like that. Or there's the Master Slaggy Rook c7 Karpov style defense. Okay, we're just going to kick him out with f6. The computer actually said like queen g4 here, f5, and I thought we're out of the woods if we can get an f5. I don't know why this is bad for black, to be frank. This looks perfectly okay. Maybe this little idea here with e4. No, I still don't think it's a problem. Black can play like g6. Even here. Should be fairly solid for black. Even consider taking with the queen. Solid for both sides. The b3 is unbeatable. Okay, guys. We did Ubatis. We're up to Save-A-Dog, Mule Skinner, Bob, Blubix. Streaming till 8 o'clock. Don't forget that I have a lesson. Don't forget to remind me after the stream. So Save-A-Dog, where are you? I played an over-the-board classical game with the white pieces. As Fuchsia would say, guys, don't forget, submit the guys in a study. Submit the game in a study. And make us both contributors. That's the word. That's the word, guys. All right. What's up? Save dog. Oh no. He's white here. Normally Save Dog's playing c4. Knight f3 in this case. Submit yourself in a study. Come to my attention that you have a lesson afterwards. Thanks, Asterbait. But just remember to remind me like right at the end of the stream. That's what I'm in danger of really forgetting. When the exhaustion like of the day just totally kicks in. So Save Dog playing knight f3 and then knight f6 and now e3. Queen's Indian reversed. Nakamura. So this is like this is not the Nakamura. There are quite a few games where white does b4 in the fianchetto type setups with like g3, knight f3, b4, c4. This gets into the territory of what's the guy's name? That American chess player that's named after like knight f3, d5, b4. What's that called? Knight f3, d5, b4. We need to ask Fuchsia again. He has a weird Santa Sierra, right? Santa Sierra. It's like a delayed Santa Sierra. I mean, this is a pretty serious weak pawn. C4 is more of a traditional sort of approach with the structure with the b4. Now we're getting into the speckled hen, Nanu. I call it the Nanu. Ciprian Nanu, the Romanian grandmaster, played like d4, knight f3, knight bd2, b4 against me. It also reminds me a little bit in the Grunfeld of the b4 variation. What's that called? Arthur Bisgeier, 1981 against John Grief. I mean, if the pawn's on b3, it's a little bit more standard. This would be like a standard Kramnik, anti-King's Indian. But b4 makes it a lot more dynamic. Also more dangerous for white, I think. Black could also consider e5, I would guess. Popovich Adam. Here. Standard. Also knight d7. That's what the guy played. This actually looks kind of familiar to me. Maybe I've seen this. Relatively recent game. Okay, bishop e2, waiting move, and then b6. I'm not sure here why black is delaying castling. Who had swag? Master V, thanks for joining us. Okay, b6, whatever. It's a reasonable move. e6 is also reasonable, sort of preempting d5. So black is playing a kind of hippopotamus with the knight on f6. It usually would be on e7 in a proper hippopotamus. And this is a really good move. I wonder how strong black is. I mean, this is the kind of move that it seems particularly appropriate, like your last chance to play knight e4 and trade a set of pieces in a position where that's the one piece that's outside the pawn chain. I would definitely be kind of sad if my opponent played knight e4 there. I have the feeling that they know what they're doing. And if you don't play knight takes e4, I mean, you're running the risk that they might play f5. So, a completely equal position. I mean, the temptation is to play like knight d2 here, and maybe go for a trade of white square bishops with bishop f3. Now, if black were really ambitious, you could avoid the exchange of bishops with d5. I think that might be a worthwhile continuation. Seriously. Because if you don't, I mean, if you were to cooperate, it just seems like the weaknesses on the white squares in this diagonal are kind of annoying. This reminds me of playing Tony Miles when I was black and some Queen's Indians and stuff. He would do like this and just trade pieces into an ending, and he would always beat me. Some sort of simplified endgame. Bishop d3 is definitely reasonable. WJ Luth, thank you for the donation. Now maybe e4 we should consider. But okay, this is cool too. Good night, WJ. So b5. Extending the pawns, but at the same time putting the pawns really on the color you want the pawns to be on, with this bishop on b2. Certainly not forced. I think e4 is worth considering. Also, another move that puts pawns on white squares, by the way. I mean, we're going to play like a6. I think the black can even consider like a5. We have to watch out for tactics like take, rook takes c5. Swoop. Still hanging, so white wins a piece. No, watch out for that. You know, but you never know. Like maybe a5, b takes a, queen c8, and black is better. Because the suddenly the structure just favors black. You got to consider the long-term ramifications. I wouldn't trade on a6. Just it's a possibility. Like a5, a4. Okay, we lock the queen side, and white has a slight space advantage. Hey, you native English-speaking people. Last question. I'm listening to a song sung in English. One monkey, don't stop the show. I don't know. c5. Alright, this is my analysis. So queen e7, b5, queen e7 looks like a good move. a4 is a good move. e5. And black has so many pawns on dark squares with that dark square bishop. But there's a very serious threat here of e4. If you take on e5, you give up potentially an outpost to c5. But you gain access to the d5 square. So this is to be considered, to be continued. I'm very curious here what the best move is. Like take, knight takes, bishop takes, rook d1. It's probably pretty close, equal. Alright, this move. It's a whole new ball game now. Yabadas. The first game we looked at, where black played, that was a slightly different position. White, it's like a kind of King's Indian dimension now we're in, where there's this f4 and there's the c5, so the competing breaks on both sides of the board. Who lands the first blow? And I mean, the fact that white's king is over here, where black is attacking, and the fact that nothing's on the side where white's attacking usually makes white's attack more deadly. I mean, black's attack more deadly. But this isn't a standard King's Indian. I mean, there's already two sets of pieces off the board. I like rook c1. c5. c5 is not working. We need to get in c5, but how does it work? That's how it works. Maybe black screwed up with rook fc8. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? I ask you. Black should just continue, you know, with his show on the king side. Black needs to stay focused on, first of all, keeping this under control and then trying to play f4. I think leaving the building with rook fc8 was a bad idea. This no longer becomes a strong. And now white's free to do this and just exercise his right to play c5. White's slightly better. a5 might be on the cards. Doesn't do it. I would strongly consider a5. Not so subtle threat to play d5 here. Black defends. Well, that queen is looking awkward, but it's got b5, d5. It's got retreat. You know, I'm thinking you could play queen and invade, trying to get into those white squares. But this looks like it's signaling a retreat here for white. But he has a new plan? What's up? Man, this is tough. I was just thinking like queen b5, kind of just hanging out. Not an easy game, guys. Yeah, I mean, a5 is the positional idea. Okay, I mean, knight protects the c pawn, but that does make white get passive. Almost f3 now. If f3, a lot of power here for black. The back rank becomes weak. You might even get d5'd. That could be. No time for f3. Black's a really sophisticated maneuvering style. Knight c6, knight a5. I like it. So this is a good game, guys. Closed position. a5, the right plan. I was wondering if you had c5 here. Dude, do you have c5 now? Well, I guess it doesn't do anything. He just trades queens and takes. It's still kind of complicated, though, because of d5, c6. Let's see. Oh, this doesn't work. It sucks. Here, takes, d5. Oh, man. He has this move. So there's nothing there. Okay. White just playing incrementally with a slightly better pawn structure. Nice game. This is a really nice game. Wow, that king is almost toast. And c5. There it is. If knight f6, that's what happened. Queen e6. If only black could trade queens, he'd probably be fine. Does this trade queens? You have queen c8. There's also this kind of insane move d5. Wow. I mean, look at this. If take, and white wins with g4. Would you guys have seen this? Forced win for Save-A-Dog. Of course. Queen e6, take, g4. h6, h4, resigns. I mean, okay, you've got to take, and then I play knight takes e4, and you've got to play bishop e7. Oh my god. And knight f6 here, and I didn't even see it, but this. It's like a forced win. Alright, so the game actually went knight f6, queen e6, not queen f7, but he took right away. This does look dangerous. I mean, d5 would probably transpose to the game idea. The g4, I'm not sure I would have found that, honestly. I certainly wouldn't have seen it far in advance. This is a much more natural move. A human move, not like g4. Now I just blundered the game. No, deserved victory there. Nice job. White had pressure you know, after the opening it was more or less close, but then white slowly took over. Okay, Mule Skinner is up next. A decent attacking game, 15 plus 5. I played the white pieces against stronger opponent. Please do not show white's 29th move to the public. Wait a minute. Now, how am I going to do this? I'm going to not show white's 29th move. I don't know, man. I don't know how to not show white's 29th move to the public. Alright, we'll not go that far, I guess. We can try to hide it. We'll stop at move 20. Well, actually, how far down the line do I have to stop? I'll put, like... I wish I could put something on the screen, you know. There's no way to obscure the screen for you guys. You're going to unsubscribe if I show that move? I mean, what can I do? I guess I could move the board over. So it doesn't show the moves, man. That actually doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. How can I hide these moves from... How can I hide the move? Mule Skinner likes to play the white side of the classical Roy Lopez. Quiet D3, avoiding a lot of things. It should be noted that like knight G5 here is not really good because of D5, pawn takes pawn, knight D4. Just for your edification. Okay, A4, bishop E7. Okay, this is a game from Hungarian Team Championship 2011. FM against IM. I mean, it seems early to make that exchange, Mule Skinner. What are you really gaining by exchanging on B5 so early? Kopas Robert against Halash Tamas. My Hungarian pronunciation gets worse when I don't live there for a few months. Forget how to pronounce names and stuff. Rook A8, okay, bishop A8. But it seems like a very premature exchange on B5. Really, I mean, it's like you're white and you have the first move, and maintaining the tension is normal. It could even work against you because later on the A file, I mean, to see this one other guy or two other players here, Halash Tommy, who's actually a good player. He's an older IM, he's rated like my rating, but he's actually quite strong. Just doesn't play much. Queen A8, you know, there's some question that the A file might even benefit black somehow. Alright, black played B4 now. Is Queen B8 a consideration? Can you imagine playing like Queen B8, Knight to D5, Bishop D8? That would be the weirdest Roy Lopez ever. Sorry, I'm not yawning because the game is boring. Just lack of rest. Okay, Knight D5, Bishop D8. How bad would queen b8 be? Oh, the computer likes knight a5. Hey. You know, it should be noted, though, that that is a standard idea. Sometimes in the, I would say, Archangel variation. I mean, if you can induce that kind of weaknesses. Eventually, the position will open up for the black bishops favorably. Especially if black can crank out d5 somehow. I'm just thinking black needs to be more dynamic. Okay, b4 here. Standard moves, castles, okay. Very modest. My eBay has been a little bit slow lately, guys. I sold a vase and a book in the last week. And the guy with the vase still hasn't paid. Knight takes d5, bishop d5, and that is awkward, man. Who in their right minds plays bishop d6 here? Yeah, knight a5, well, it's an idea from, as I said, from that knight c3 Roy Lopez, actually. I think we could get very similar positions in the main line of the Roy Lopez, where white like just goes like knight c3. If you say like castles, bishop e7, you like rook e1, b5, bishop b3, castles, knight c3. This is sometimes played, these type of positions, where this is going to be more obviously an idea, of course. But after d6, maybe we would transpose like a4. I would think that here we would have another instance where that might be very relevant. For example, like a takes b, knight takes b3, cb. I mean, here black's pinned, so he can't take back. It's a little more complicated. I've seen weird games where, let's just say for hypotheticals, like this happened, and then like takes. I've seen this happen where black was able to play like c5, then regain the pawn, like whatever, this pawn on a6. Sorry for the ridiculous moves. c5. Obviously, we're going to delete a takes b7. So fixing the center and getting this pawn back somehow. And then like white is worse, even though he's up a pawn. If not worse, then white still got issues with the mangled pawns. Basically, like the question becomes, is the 3-pawn island that's very secure and healthy as good as this mangled mass of 5 pawns that are all isolated and messed up, you know? And black has the bishop pair, which is some possible advantage in the long term. Anyways, some similarity here. Just a hypothetical position. But bishop d6 is really strange. I mean, white has a very modest position at the same time. I don't think Muleskinner wanted to lose control of the A file at this point. So that's why. Bishop b3. And notice black is in no position to play d5 or f5. All of Muleskinner's systems sort of gravitate around like a kingside buildup in a closed position. So it's sort of like knight g5 is almost winning immediately here if white had an extra move. Is this good enough? Muleskinner must have considered this. I mean, sometimes it's like knight takes f7, you know? I'm just not sure this is quite good enough. It looks like in this instance, you're really sacrificing 2 pieces for a rook and not getting it back. Use as much description as possible. Teapot, camel, Indian, hand-painted, pastel, vintage, retro. Lots of adjectives. Alright, anyway, like knight g5 definitely looks like an idea. g3 is, I think, a different plan, although knight g5 still might get played. It looks like he's going for h4, h5. And I don't know how many times I've told you guys, the knights on knight 3 are badly placed, and the pawn, that's his favorite attacking plan. This is too little, too late. So, like, finally, maybe d5 could stir up some trouble in the center. It's like a King's Indian attack. So we all expected g6 here. But he plays the mind-boggling d5. And then the old hide behind the pawn strategy with rook e8. Okay. There's no time, unfortunately, for, you know, he's breaking down a long diagonal. So there's no time for, like, king g2, rook h1. There's also c4 levers. Rare. Epic. How about this? Epic, rare, teapot, camel, Indian, hand-painted, pastel, vintage, retro. Alright, knight g5. We're on it. That's game over. That's game over. Why would he take on g7? He didn't like the variation h6, queen h5, h takes g, queen h8 mate, apparently, so he went for the other option. And Muleskinner felt sorry for his opponent. There is no checkmate, apparently. I mean, obviously f4 is super tempting here. I guess f4 and take back with the bishop looks very strong. For a second, the computer was saying rook a1. I mean, I would never consider that move in like a million years. I'm right. Now, f4 is right. Now, f4 is so natural. This looks like he's just going to, win the exchange on h7, whatever, you know. What a sellout. Just won the exchange. Mr. Boring. Now you played f4. That's totally inconsistent. Like, with all that attack, you didn't play f4. Instead, you went for winning the exchange. And then you played f4. Like, I think it's one or the other. Either you, like, attack him and you try to mate him, or you take the material and consolidate. But instead, Muleskinner, like, he took the material and then he tried to mate him, you know? See, it's one thing or the other. Either you're mating him or you're winning material and winning by consolidation. At this point, you should just like trade everything. I would just play like queen f5 check, king d6, take on d5, you know, bishop d5, e d5, and just win. There's no way this guy is going to survive here. You know, I think this is just you can't make up your mind how you want to win. You should have a clear plan about how you're going to win the game. Is it going to be a mating attack? You passed up the chance. You went for the cheap, you know, knight h7, lazy, win the exchange variation, and then you decided, no, I'm going to mate him. And that's fine. It probably works, but it's just like, why? The problem is you don't want to create complications when you're up material. You know, I think this is the lesson. I'm sure objectively you're winning anyway. Oh, yes. You know, the good thing is that like 2 out of 10 times your opponent doesn't take because they just believe you. Don't you hate that feeling when you're like, hey, maybe they won't, maybe they'll just believe me? You know, there's like maybe 1 in 10 times that they're just like instantly moving king d6 because they play too much bullet chess. At least a 10% chance that he won't take it. Ah, he saw it. Gosh. This is serious momentum going on. I love this move. This is awesome. G4. You gotta get that in. G4 will transpose to a lost endgame. Alright. He saw it. Oh man, what a merciless dude. And bishop f1 is even mate. That's just rude. Alright. We've got 3 games left. Alright, we've got enough time. 40 minutes with 3 games remaining. Plenty of time. Bob Blobix and Warnacki. It says here, beg for donations. Alright, please guys, can you support the stream? Don't forget. We're starving chess players. Support the stream. Alright. We are going to go to the Bob game. Frightening but true. White lost his queen. It was a sack. Bob's sack. Bob's got it. Bob, you really need to play more games than just against me. Alright. This is me versus the Bob. It was a mouse slip. I didn't think it was a mouse slip because the reason why I don't think it was a mouse slip is because Queen F5 was actually in a lot of variations when the pawn was still on E4. So I think it's more like not likely to be a mouse slip, but a just kind of hallucination where you would analyze so many positions where you were playing Queen F5 check, like the variation I showed. I would have played Queen F5 check. That would have been my move. And then pawn takes D5. He just reversed the order of moves. He played pawn takes D5 and then Queen F5. Not quite as good. Okay, so Bob is white against me. Excuse me, I'm white against Bob. Let me flip the board. Yeah. Alright, so I'm actually white and Bob is black. Queen's Gambit, Slav defense, Knight F3, and then Bishop G4. Wow. Bob thinks he's playing the Trompowsky. You know, you just can't be as aggressive with black as you are with white. Chess is a fair game. That extra move makes a big difference. This is just too provocative, Mr. Bob. So I went for it with Knight E5. You know, it's interesting if you compare this to like Chigorin's favored move, like D4, D5, Knight F3, Bishop G4. For some reason, this isn't quite as bad for black as Bob's version. You know, I'm not really sure why. I mean, the only difference is that there's this interpolation of these two moves, which are inherently, you know, normal moves for both sides. But it seems like this version is much worse than the Chigorin knight c6. Okay, so bishop g4, 95. The only incisive attempt, I guess. I mean, you could try queen b3. Then black just goes like queen b6, you know, standard sort of auto response. It would be interesting to see like bishop takes f3, queen takes b7. That's probably a line, like bishop g2. Have I ever analyzed this? This is actually good for white. So on queen b3 you can't take, you have to play, yeah, queen b6. This line actually looks less threatening because of the queen trade, taking some of the dynamism out of it. So I like 95 better by me. And then bishop h5. You can put the bishop anywhere. And a lot of people I had a game the other day against the guy who played knight f6. Didn't I, guys? Do you remember this? I literally had this game the other day. It was like knight g4, knight g4. And I played really lamely, like e3 or something. I was making fun of myself. It was like late in my stream, and I just was like, wow, I can't believe I just played e3. That's the lamest move ever. I always tell the story how I lost in like 6 moves with white once in a tournament game when I was a FIDE master. Just dropped a piece on prees. Okay, 95, bishop h5. We're human and we lose concentration. So it looks like I chose a good variation. I mean, objectively, what should Bob do here? You know, like bishop c8. Maybe bishop c8. Queen c8 has been played. That's creative. Bishop e6. Everything's been tried. Dubious line, Bob. Don't play bishop g4 anymore. Trust me. So now he plays queen b6. You know what I wanted to play, Bob? I didn't mention it during the stream, but g4. Maybe this is like the ultra-violent approach here for white. The only thing is, I mean, if he goes bishop g6, he always has availability. So bishop e4, bishop b1. I'm not sure it's better than queen b3. There's also f6. Reverse Trumpowski. But anyway, all right. Well, there's an actual game here. Whoa. This actually happened in Bouivin. An old Bouivin game from 1995. Bouivin was 1995. He was 24-48. Wow, that's crazy. 10 years later, he had like the same rating. All right. C takes d5. Oh my god, I missed queen h3. This was the game where I played e3 and I was like disgusted with myself. Okay, so this was the game, Bob. I was sickened by the move e3. I sickened myself by playing e3. I couldn't decide on what to do. Holy crap, I have this computer move. It's kind of messed up because like I have this there, this here. You play queen d8 and then okay, I just take on b7. I was wondering if there was some other idea, but that's all it is. I'm just taking this pawn here. That's good to know for future reference though. Acerbate would appreciate this. Queen b3. Well, I mean, this just utilizing this kind of unusual move. I mean, I think that has a computer kind of element to it. I didn't even see queen h3. It's so out of my... Maybe if you're playing the white side of an advanced Caro-Kann or something, I don't know. But for me, that never happens in the Slav. Like, I literally have never played a game in the Slav where I maneuvered my queen from b3 to h3. It's not even on my radar. For the computer, it just pops up on the screen. Bloop. It's like direct calculation. I mean, I know that there's a mate on c8 in some openings, but queen h3 is an unusual way to get there. It would often get there by f5. You know, actually, if you look at London system positions, you can get mated on f5. What would be a good example? Queen b6, you know, queen b6, queen c2, queen b6, bishop f4. I don't know, never mind. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, the queen could come to c2, take a bishop, and then go to f5 to c8 and mate black in that kind of position. But I've never seen it go from h3 to c8. So I didn't even see it at all. That's sick. So e3 is horrific. Any other move is good for white. So I let Bob completely off the hook in one move. And now we've got transposed back into a semi-credible position. Totally credible position. Here's a Greek game from 1997. Papayanui. Bob's move I hated, d takes c4. Do not give up your center, Bob, unless you have a good reason to do so. Do not have a good reason to do that here. This pawn is pivotal to your control of the center. Plus you're helping me develop. Looks like I got a little fancy, but I wanted to not trade queens against the Bobster. There's nothing wrong with bishop takes c4, but he could just simply trade queens. And, you know, it's like a little better for white, but not a really exciting position. So I wanted to try to checkmate Bob. And if I remember correctly, no, this was a simul game. Okay. I grabbed the bishop pair. I like this. g3. And then typically what you'll get in Slav positions is bishop back to g1, bishop g2, influencing the long diagonal. But I didn't like bishop f1 because he has e5. I thought this was okay for Bob, actually. Main problem would be like this. I'll have to lose a tempo going back to e2, because if bishop g2, he has queen a6, which I thought was kind of nasty. I didn't like this. So that's why I played bishop e2. Was a good move. Then I take, he takes, here, castles queenside. And the question is, maybe Bob played too hesitantly because my pawns are just rolled in the center here. I was very happy with this position. And this looks passive as well. I mean, I don't know. You should try to play more actively. Can you play like knight c5? Drops a piece. Bishop b4. Pressuring the center indirectly. Actually, I get positions like this sometimes playing the King's Indian attack, believe it or not. Closed King's Indian attack positions. Tory attack reversed. Who what? E4. Should be 7. I should have just rolled. I did. Wasn't good. Or what? Here, I mean, I really underestimated Bob's position, you know, but he gets all this play. Knight takes d5, c takes d5. I thought I'm out of the woods, everything's cool, but then suddenly Bob is infiltrating down here on g3 and against e2. And I became very disoriented. So I did not find the best possible continuation. This is a simul, playing 25 players. Did manage, I was down to seconds here, a minute and 17 seconds. Did manage to find queen d3. That's a tempo. Knight c5. And the queen f3. And Bob did a good job. This is move 11's vocabulary word again that I can't remember. It's a support or something like that. Knight e4. And again, I was down to 58 seconds. Excuse me, Bob had 58 seconds. I'm sorry, I had 3 minutes. Playing 25 boards, 3 minutes is nothing. It can just disappear in one move. Bishop e1, queen b6. Great job by Bob not trading queens, by the way. If Bob had traded queens, I just said that. Let's clip that. If Bob had traded queens, I would be in good shape. This is a really nice endgame for the queenses and the bishops too. Pawn structure. I was just pleased Bob trade queens. But Bob would not cooperate. He played this. It's like Smeagol, exactly. It sounded like Smeagol. And sadly, I didn't find queen b3, which would have been easier. I played this down to 2 minutes, and he plays this nice little cheapo. And sadly, I missed that I could play rook h2. The engine claims rook h2, but I didn't like the look of rook h3. The computer just doesn't care. It's like, oh, that doesn't matter. It mattered to me because I'm not losing a pawn against Bob. So bishop e4, a good move. Trading off my bishop pair, which enables him to get a little closer to equality. So it's like take, take. He has a strong knight, active queen. His king is safe. And so his activity like basically counteracts like that the pawn structure. He's got the doubled and the isolated on d5 and g6. But I think his activity almost compensates. Bishop c2. This is a good game. Queen b6 and now queen b3. I finally just was like, whatever. Trade queens. He doesn't want to trade queens. Very stubborn. And I think a good principle to keep in mind, when you have a queen and knight, and Bob is correct in this in general, when you're playing with queen and knight, you don't want to... Thanks, Mr. Coffee. When you have a queen and knight, you don't want to play, you know, a trade of queens. You don't want to trade queens. You want to keep the queen and knight on board because they're tricky and they coordinate well together. So it was really close. And then here, I'm starting to exercise my positional advantage. What happens? Sorry, queen b6, where are we? Bishop a3. I played b3, and then this is really what happened. Bob's all over me with queen d4, queen e2, and this is unpleasant because now opposite color bishops really wasn't what I wanted here. And I have very significant weaknesses on the dark square, so at this point I was kind of like, this is a draw, and I have to be a little bit careful probably. Bob's play on the dark squares is quite relevant actually. So again, Bob here blunders. Not again, I mean, again here Bob should trade queen, to not trade queens. If I can just speak a little bit of English. He should be consistent about not trading queens, but he got down to a minute, maybe he sort of panicked. But again, you know, in a position where you have static weaknesses, you can keep the dynamic chances alive. His pawn structure is worse, and when he trades queens like this, now it's significant. You know, this pawn, they're targets for my white square bishop, and I'm able to blockade his pawn. So now Bob is worse, and it just gets worse and worse. It's like a disease. Bob in the endgame. But he finally just like drops f7. No, he could put up resistance here. Rook c7. It's not a win probably. It's like a just sort of difficult draw for black. If he defends an unpleasant position for the next like 30 moves, he can draw. Probably. Though I wouldn't want to face, this is the Magnus Carlsen like nightmare position right here. Being black against Magnus Carlsen with less time or something like that. Like just resign. I mean, forget about it. So good job, Bob. Bob eventually succumbed. It was a little bit of defense going on there for a while. But I've got the 3-on-2 on the king side. c3 is hanging. Is this the actual game situation? No. You blundered with bishop e2. Okay. Yeah, that was just suggested by the engine. This just, yeah, now you're lost. That was just analysis, guys. He actually just dropped his f7 pawn. He could have put up resistance. Could have, should have, would have. I waited a long time to push my e-pawn, which is kind of weird. But there's nothing wrong here. That e-pawn's too strong. All right, Bob, we're not going to look at the end. It's too ugly. I don't want the kids to see this. So, Jim, next time, Bob might have a chance. He's getting a little bit better. Okay, so Blobix and Warnacki are the last two left. We got 20 minutes left exactly. Interesting line against the Mora. Wow, cool. So Blobix presumably is white here. Excuse me. Yeah, black, black, black. Bob played the previous game. This is Blobix. Saying Bob and Blobix next to each other is really, really annoying. You guys are not allowed to submit your games in sequential order anymore. All right, e4, c5, d4, c takes d4. This is just a mainline Mora until this move. So I noted that you had recommended this earlier, Blobix. And I like this move. I like the spirit of this move, you know. Black is playing a line that no one really knows. It's better than its reputation. It's kind of off the beaten track. So this is kind of more a gambit declined. It's a Danish, it feels like the Danish gambit. I think that's why this never appealed to me. People would just like transpose some kind of weird Danish gambit type of thing. White should play bishop c4 according to the engine. See, that's interesting. And that shows how little theory there really is in things like the Mora Gambit, because it's not played by a lot of strong players. Here we have a position where there's like 17 games and only one person has actually played bishop c4. And it's like easily like Morphy would play that move instantaneously, you know. I mean, wouldn't he? Am I crazy in saying that? I mean, wouldn't Paul Morphy just like, this would be automatic, like bishop c4 instantly? I mean, maybe bishop c4, maybe knight f3 first, but I mean, here you actually have a threat of queen h5. If black isn't careful, by the way. You know, black were to play, well, actually there is really no bad move for black. I mean, I guess bishop e7 would be the worst move you could play. Your dad studied this line a lot and has crushed me a couple times like this. Interesting. So, okay, pawn takes pawn is a decent move. I feel like we've transposed to another opening or something. Now it definitely feels like the Danish gambit, except it's not. I don't know about you, Blobix, but as a Sicilian player, I feel a little bit awkward here. It feels like I'm playing either the black side of the Queen's Gambit accepted, e5 variation, or I'm playing some sort of Danish gambit. Even though it's probably good for black, I think that you have to be comfortable. I never had a lot of luck with the Queen's Gambit accepted. If you actually take the black c pawn and put it back, how would it work? Oh, I guess we have to move this d pawn over to c7. If we move the d pawn over to c7, it becomes a Queen's Gambit accepted. Is that what it is? All right, knight c6, and suddenly there's a lot of games, so we really like transpose to something. And knight takes d4. Again, another move that I don't think is very incisive. There's more to life than material. Bishop c4. It's Kogan against Finkel. This seems more incisive to try bishop c4. Okay, certainly not a bad move. Knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, And now, this is nice. This is nice. This is kind of active. Chess lover, welcome to the stream. Thanks for being a subscriber. D-pawn is a hindrance, yeah. But we're going to try to play D5 quickly. Now it's a scotch. It's actually, it's a scotch with the pawns gone from E5 and C2. Scotch 4 knights. It's also similar to some lines of the Sicilian with C4. Where C4 disappeared. C4 and the E pawn on E6 have disappeared. So bishop D2, this is insipid, right? When someone plays a move like this, you're like, oh man, you know that they'd be content with the draw probably. Very, very passive move, bishop D2. So Blobix doesn't show any materialism here. The question is, what happens after bishop C3? Let me turn off the engine. Bishop takes C3, bishop takes C3, knight takes E4, bishop G7, and then we have queen A5 check. Sorry. Then, you know, bishop C3, knight, yeah, that's C3. Queen D2 allows queen E5 check. So we can't do any tricks. You have to just take back, and it's a nightmare. Okay, so that's losing for white. So the best that white has is, I don't know. How can he keep his bishop pair and play for compensation for the pawn here? Chess lover suggestion, queen E2. Obviously now we castle, and white is screwed again. No, maybe not. Maybe there's some ridiculous now. No, the queen E4 rook E8 is coming. You're just dead. This is dead for white too. I don't see how white can even play this at all. Like, I think he's just going to lose out of hand. But I like, you know, the fact that Blobix is not being materialistic in spirit. Maybe the best thing for white to do is to just, like, develop his pieces or something. Bishop D3, knight C3, BC3, and just be a pawn down. That's the best he can do. No. Period. Be a pawn down. Actually, here we have queen E7 check, right? So I guess we actually have to put the bishop on E2 so as not to get checked on the next move and play this position. That's literally the best that white can do. Like, be a pawn down with no compensation at all for said pawn. But again, I like Blobix's play in spirit because he's not being materialistic. This is almost the scotch without a pawn on C2. It's really weird. That's a little risky. There is an E-file here. Check. I would consider king F1, but it looks like, yeah, he could play bishop E2. Typical, right? This is just a game for fun. It's a fast game, 15-minute game. White did not want to admit... I mean, obviously, bishop A6 does look scary, though. But the point is, like, bishop E2, bishop A6, castles. If bishop takes C3, bishop takes A6. You can't have everything. So, white didn't want to admit his mistake, basically. Okay, we could play like this, right? But then you take with the pawn, so this is the secret defense that no one saw. Bishop A6, bishop E3, and white lives into the next century, a pawn down. Actually, not a pawn down here, so he's just slightly worse strategically, but can play. Game is not over. This is not that bad. So that's the only way to survive. Blobix's opponent didn't have the forethought to realize he could play bishop E2. Just played this. And then actually Blobix is sort of got a big decision to make here. I mean, there's all different moves. You could even try like bishop g4. That's a bit over the top, but I would consider it. You're in a particularly Morphe-inspired mood, maybe. Also, just so he's got lots of moves. Just pawn takes pawn. It's a scotch with the king on f1. That's pretty good for black. So he plays this. But I think that this, you know, feels like white has a small chance to survive. The more pieces he trades. Alright, so what happened now? You played queen takes d5, he played queen c2. I mean, dude, you've got no development. But I guess there's no choice. There's bishop a6. That's going to kill him immediately, so he has to move the queen. Okay, here. Oh, no. The engine suggests, let me turn it off again, but bishop h3, rook g1. That's funny. So how does Blubix do this? Tom Petty versus Bent Larson. What are we talking about? Hair or hairstyle? Comparative coolness of hairstyles? Queen c2. I'm just thinking in what term we can, in what category we can compare Tom Petty and Bent Larson. Overall coolness or hairstyle. I'm not really sure what we're talking about, guys. But all right, g6, h4, good move. Bishop g4. So you want to play rook d8. Is that what you're saying? They're both equally alive. That's true. Or equally unalive. Alive in some sense, Bob. I keep feeling like there's going to be some kind of secret tactic here that I don't see. But I still don't see it. No knockout blow. A routine effort for Blubix. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, he's got this, you know, but he's not having to do anything fancy, essentially. Queen a7. Now we got really nice central control. A mate in 8. The 7th rank looks problematic. Alright, man. Pretty standard game for Blubix there. But I like the idea in the opening. I'm going to try that. Try to play e5 sometime. It seems like it's as playable as anything. But my only fault with e5 against the Mora would be that you kind of have to be an e45 player to really feel comfortable. Or as I said, the Queen's Gambit accepted e5 systems with like e4, you know, the real Queen's Gambit accepted e4 gambit lines. Guys, last game, I've got to go. So this is Warnaki. Thanks everybody for subscribing and being part of my stream. Oh, it's a short one. Good. If you've got enough time for a very quick review of miniature, you can take it. You got it. Perfect, because we just have like 5 minutes. So Warnaki's black. Knight f3 is a frustrating move to play against, guys. In advance, I'd like to thank Mr. Coffee for being our moderator here.
Well, yes.
And again, please support the stream, guys. Make a streaming donation. Click the panda on the Twitch channel, or a PayPal donation of any kind. Feel free to buy stuff on my eBay channel. And we'll see you again tomorrow night at 5:30 for Blitz. Fast Blitz with all my challengers. 5+3 casual. Okay, so knight c6, this is a combative move. In order to play this, you have to be able to play like the Chigorin, and you have to be able to play, or Mexican defense, you have to be able to play the Nimzovich. So Knight c6 is not for everybody. d4, d5, we've got a Chigorin, bishop f4. I played this once against Josh Friedel. Karpov has also played bishop f4. It's not a main line against the Chigorin, but it's not bad. And I think that black's supposed to play bishop f5, but I think that black can also play bishop g4. Actually, bishop g4 is more mainline. Try not to look at the openings for this. This is a little more common. So against me, Josh did like an early f6 and g5 and went like crazy. That was a long time ago before he became a GM, but he was still a strong player. Bishop f4, bishop f5. Not quite as aggressive as bishop g4. e3. This guy Milodinovic, I never met him. He's a Serbian grandmaster, but he's like Mr. Chigorin. He plays this opening a lot, or did. I don't know how active he is now. Not too many players, not too many grandmaster level players play the Chigorin. e6, no, you played knight f6. Old Taimanov game, one of his last probably. Okay, knight f6, bishop d3. I wouldn't play bishop d3, I don't think. Taimanov played like bishop b5, it looks like. This is more incisive. You've got threats of knight e5. You know, I don't think this is the best. You need to play e6 first. So you can meet bishop b5 with either bishop d6 or knight e7. It looks like, yeah, there's a lot of games now if you look from this position. Bishop b5 and bishop d6. That seems to be the best try. But again, I think that bishop g4 is a little bit more mainline. You were discussing lines with Tang in London at US Open. Oh, the London. Did you play your buddy Braden Borneval? Of course. I think we even like, he would play sit and go poker tournaments like in slightly lower buy-ins than me years ago when I was playing full time. I think that Bourneville actually, we even like played probably like a rare like sit and go on Poker Stars too, but we were both playing full time poker online a while. Brett and I played like maybe 2 games back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So anyway, d5, bishop f4, bishop f5, slightly unusual. e3, knight f6. It looks like that should probably be e6 first. Bishop d3. And then this move looks suspicious to me. Black needs to get developed. So I would think like e6 is conceivable. That's actually been played. Bishop g6. You can like let white take on g6. Knight e4 looks a bit weird. Maybe it's not that bad. But I don't like the fact that this doesn't develop anything for black. We're still sitting here, you know, with the king side actually, you know, completely immobilized. Knight c3 looks reasonable. I'm not sure white has a big advantage, but something. This is like straight out of like Carl Schlechter's greatest games from the early 1900s. This position, it looks like that was very popular in those days to do like d4, d5, bishop f4, bishop f5, knight c3, knight c6. You know, there's like weird symmetrical d4, d5 games that you basically would never see today. Now it's like gotten ridiculous. Okay, so white tries to get funny with knight e5. Yeah, this is starting to bother me now. My eyes hurt. All right, so I mean, you might be able to play bishop takes e5 here and give up that bishop and try to play with like knight. It's similar to Jim's game that we went over earlier in the stream, but in the case of something like this, I mean, maybe you end up in a situation where maybe this happens and your knight and that bishop, it's difficult to assess like which piece is really better because of white's space advantage offsets the fact that his bishop is kind of restricted by his pawns. So, but anyway, my whole head is about to explode. Thank God this game isn't too much longer. Knight c3, bc3, kind of building white's center. I don't think these double pawns are bad. Knight e5, bishop e5. Okay, bishop e5 is good, and then d5. Okay, solid position. This pawn looks a bit of a weakness. This pawn is a bit of a weakness. You just castled. You should consider maybe bishop g6, though this pawn's probably going to roll down to f5. There's also, well, I mean, bishop takes d3 looks very equal to me. This basically undoubles his pawns. Okay, let's see. This is interesting because really, like, if you look at it, if he takes, he ends up with Icelandi's there. So e4 is just a crazy move. So if we go to this position, what's happening? It's hard to attack these pawns because they're, you know, inaccessible unless we can play maybe like rook e8, rook e6, rook c6 and attack them like frontally. That's going to be difficult to do and apply a lot of pressure. No, I don't think that it was a bad game, that anyone made any major mistake until e4 here, which is just bizarre. I mean, I don't understand why he did that. And then he just gave you a piece. So white just lost his mind or something. Or he just forgot the rules of chess or something. It's hard to understand. Like, he just forgot the rules. Or maybe, like, you know what happened? Your opponent, like, went to the bathroom and his, like, 3-year-old son came and took over the game. And he was just like, oh, yeah, okay, e4. I think that's what must have happened, you know. And he was, oh, I remember how the rooks move now. Like, rook b1 had to be the next move, you know. And the father came back and he was like, oh, my God, I resigned. Sorry. My 3-year-old son took over the game. Yeah, that's probably what happened. But anyway, the opening was reasonable. I just think that in general you should play like bishop g4 rather than bishop f5 in that bishop f4 Chigorin line. It's a little bit more active and it puts a little bit more pressure on the e5 square. If you look at the opening, that's the square that white's really fighting for. If you think about it, all of his forces are fighting for e5, and I think like bishop g4 is the move that kind of counters that knight and counterattacks, and you know, both sides are really essentially fighting for e5. That's the battleground. So bishop g4 makes a bit more sense in terms of that fight for e5. Okay guys, it was a good one. I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks Mr. Coffee for being our moderator as usual. Thanks to all of you guys for being faithful followers of the stream. I appreciate it. It's been a long day. On behalf of the Macro Panda and myself, have a great night. Thank you guys for donation, Asterbait. Thank you, everybody. We gotta go. We have an important business to attend to. Bye-bye. Later, guys. Have a great night. Bye-bye.